New year, and Gem Mint was right. Let's get into it. Another list of the hottest comics in the cosmos, courtesy of the best comic app in existence, Key Collector Comics, and we have the 10 hottest comic books in the world to discuss, and we're only days into 2023. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button, and Gem, how you feeling?
I'm trying to process the fact that I was right about some Spec, but that one was a no-brainer. We'll get into it later on the list. I'm feeling great. It's a new year, 2023, and this is the first Hot 10 of the year. We're going to kick it off with number 10. We've got The Flash, 129 from 1962, the first team-up of the Golden Age Flash and Barry Allen.
Just issues prior, you have one of my favorite covers of all time, Flash 123, the meeting of both Flashes. And this was a major moment because it bridged the gap between the old hero and the new. And this is the issue that follows up with the introduction, rather the reintroduction of multiple characters from the JSA. We have an 8.0 selling for $299, up 33% over the last 12 months.
And then we have two record-breaking sales, starting with the CGC 7.0. Now, this sold for just $300 back in October. It's up 7%, now selling for $320. Then the 9.0, which sold for $700 way back in 2005, that's up 21%, now selling for $850.
We have a lot of James Gunn Spec pushing books like this up. We've been saying that keys from the DC catalog have been far undervalued for way too long, even during the comic boom. And we can also thank Jeff Johns.
There's a lot of renewed interest in the JSA, not only in the movie universe with James Gunn, but in the comic universe with Jeff Johns. We've been seeing so many DC key books hit the list. Last week, it was actually the first time ever where there were more DC books than Marvel, which brings us to number 9 on the list, another DC key, Showcase 34, 1961. We have the first appearance and the origin of the Atom.
The Atom making his way on the list, and we have Ant-Man getting his third movie over at Marvel. Curious if they're going to keep this going with the same characters. We may lose an Avenger. Regardless, the shrinking hero at DC is the Atom, and this is a book that's been undervalued and underrated, getting some love this past week, a 1.5, with a missing coupon sold for $200. We have a 4.0 selling for $366, which is 8% over its recent 12 months. And we have a record-breaking sale at the 6.0, where it last sold in April for $1,020, up 13%, now selling for $1,150.
There's no new news on the Atom. It's just another DC key that people are speculating on. We did see this character portrayed on TV in the Arrowverse by Brandon Routh, and the character also showed up in the video game Injustice 2. Now, there are 831 total slabs on the CGC census, which includes 13 9.0s. The last GPA sale was in November of 2022, where it sold for $9,500, just a little shy of the record high that was set in September of the same year, where it sold for $10,800.
Those prices were pretty similar, and they were both the highest this book has ever sold for at a 9.0, which is important because when you look at the census, there's only a 9.2 and a 9.4 that exists. Two 9.2s, the only sale recorded was back in 2015 when it sold for $7,768. And then above that, one of 3 copies that exists of a 9.4, selling for near $10,000, but we haven't seen that hit the market publicly since 2007. When a 9.0 sells, it sets the standard for all of the books we have at the list at number 8. Incredible Hulk 181, the first full appearance of Wolverine, and congratulations, my brother, this video marks the 181st Hot 10. Hot damn!
The 181st episode, shout out Hulk 181. Wait a minute, that's what we're on right now. The first full appearance of Wolverine. No new news. We do have 3 sales to report on. Everything sticking around that 12-month average. The 3.0 selling for $2,800, which is 3% above its average. The 4.5 also 3% up, selling for $3,850. And the 6.0 up 2%, selling for $5,000.
Now, this book has been on the Hot 10 multiple times in the last year, but it recently made the Hot 10 on December 12th. And since then, there's been an addition of 59 slabs added to the CGC census, the highest of which was a brand new 9.4.
And not a scarce book by any means. There are now over 13,000 copies graded on the CGC census. And if you want to get into an entry-level Hulk 181 in February of 2021, the .5 set the bar at $1,000.
And now we're at the list at number 7, villain rumors, causing an uptick in copies sold of a very expensive Silver Age book. And with Armor Wars slated, possible reprisals from legendary heroes, possibly Robert Downey Jr., the villain must be immense. He must be amazing. He must be really tall. And he's bringing his stilts.
Daredevil issue number 8 from 1965, the first appearance of Stilt Man, and it's weird to hear a rumor of him showing up in Armor Wars. It makes more sense on the other rumor saying that he'll be in Daredevil Born Again.
It would make sense that this villain would show up in the Daredevil show. However, if you were hoping for a mature take on Daredevil similar to what we got in the Netflix era, this type of rumor is something you probably don't want to come true.
Yeah, if She-Hulk has taught us anything, it's that they're willing to grab obscure villains and make them kind of goofy in the show. There are 1,077 slabs graded on the CGC census, which includes 25 9.6s. The last GPA sale was in December of 2021, where it sold for $1,501. And then the record high was set in April of that year, where it sold for $2,383.
There's only 8 copies graded at 9.8. The last GPA sale shows it's selling in June 2022 for $3,360, and we have multiple grade points averaging up this week. The 3.0 is up 18%, selling for $100. The 4.5 is up 1%, selling for $150. The 5.0 is hitting $200. That's 28% over its recent 12 months. And the 6.0 is hitting $243, 2% over its recent year.
Leaving us with the 8.5, which sold for $550, 14% above its 12-month average.
I got 2 keys behind me, Gem. FF49, First Galactus, and Fantastic Four Annual 2. We got the Doom Origin issue, and they're going out at random to a member who purchases a January mystery mail call. Support the show directly. Go to ComicTown101.com to join the community and give me an excuse to send you comics every single month. 1 per box. We got a Berserker number 1, Raph Grossetti variant, Virgins going out at random.
It's also going to have the trade dress for Thanos Death Notes issue 1, a Davis Rider Mellow Fellow exclusive.
Get some comics from us, and let's look at the list at number 6 with the bombastic Bagman. We have Amazing Spider-Man 258.
After Peter Parker removed the alien symbiote from his body, he had to throw on something, grabbed one of the costumes from the Fantastic Four Baxter building, the only problem being they don't have masks. This book is spiking due to the brief cameo that we saw in the Across the Spider-Verse trailer.
This is such a cool book because this isn't even a alt version of Peter Parker. This happened in the standard Amazing Spider-Man run. However, it's been riffed on, included in video games and the like. We have an 8.5 selling for $70, 27% over its recent 12 months. The 9.4 hitting 110 is 11% over its recent year. The 9.6 is selling for $150. That's 15% over its recent year.
And then we have the 9.8, which sold for $410, 27% above its 12-month average. Not only did the Baxter building not come equipped with masks, but apparently shoes either.
On the list, at number 5, Amazing Spider-Man 194, the first appearance of Black Cat, the first appearance of Felicia Hardy. Fan casting pushing this book up, causing Gem to call some damn good Spec.
And not to toot my own horn, but I did kind of call this during our runners-up video back on November 8th. I mean, when the 9.8 selling under its 12-month average, you know it's a good time to buy, and it looks like some collectors did. We have multiple grades performing here, including a 5.5 newsstand that sold for $250, 21% above its 12-month average, a 6.0 that sold for $238, 6% above its average, an 8.0 that sold for $350, 2% above its average, and then a 9.4 that sold for $900, 7% above its average.
The 9.8 is up 11%, selling for $4,500. That's a near $500 climb. And there's also an error version of this book. Look out for that Marvel header that was printed incorrectly. We have a 9.0 selling for $1,550 and a 9.4 selling for $1,595. That's how rare this book is. The prices are near identical for a higher grade point.
Fan casting is already calling for Wednesday's Jenna Ortega to play Felicia Hardy. Whether or not she gets casted, that's yet to be seen.
Fans are even suggesting White Tiger should be on the slate. They don't care. They just want Jenna Ortega. And she's already been in the MCU. She actually made her debut in Iron Man 3, portraying the Vice President's daughter. Also, she was at the red carpet event for Spider-Man Homecoming, where she attended as a fan. Moving over to number 4 on the list with Tales to Astonish 93. Some Marie Severin goodness. Silver Surfer versus the Hulk.
Now, there might not be any MCU reasons to have this cover hit the list, but what's peculiar is that we have 2 record breakers and 1 grade point that's trending above its 12-month average. Now, there are 1,467 slabs on the CGC census, which includes 74 9.4s, only 30 9.6s, and the last GPA sale was $5,520 in January of last year.
The record high was $6,000, and that was set back in 2010. This book does not come up often at a 9.6. It's quite expensive. So when the 9.4 enters the market, it is wanted, and we have one that came and went this past week. A 3.0 sold for $100, 3% over its recent 12 months. The 4.0 sold for $215 back in October, up 7%, now selling for $229. And then we have the 9.4. Back in 2021, setting the record for $1,440, obliterated this past week with an all-new high for the first time in comic history for an increase of 74%, selling for $2,500 hot. Damn.
With how much the 9.6 goes for, it makes sense that somebody broke record on this 9.4. And when you look at 9.8s, there are only 12 copies on the census, and the record was set in 2021, where it sold for $12,593.
Fantastic Four isn't slated till 2025. And what are the odds that Silver Surfer is going to be in that first movie? Let me know in the comments section, and we'll take it to number 3 on the list with Sentry number 1, debuting in 2000, the first appearance of Sentry, the first appearance of the Void, Henry Cavill, Spec, and Boss Logic fan casting already.
And being that Henry Cavill will no longer be portraying Superman in the DCEU, it's even more likely that we'll see him show up in the MCU, possibly the villain of the Thunderbolts.
Henry Cavill looks great as the Sentry. However, Bob Reynolds, the alter ego of the Sentry, is an average Joe, someone who you may lose in a crowd. Henry Cavill sticks out. The dude's essentially a Greek god.
Yeah, I think the other problem is you're going from the most notable superhero to a superhero that only hardcore comic book fans really know. So that could be a little bit of a hurdle. Either way, we have a 164% increase in copies sold this week over last. There are 1,210 slabs on the CGC census, which oddly enough includes 2 5.5s. There are 62 9.0s, 64 9.2s, 163 9.4s, and 392 9.6s.
There's 458 9.8s. The record high was set in May 2021 for $659, and the recent 9.8 puts it right around $500. That happened in December 2022. So that's really close to the heights it reached during the comic boom because collectors are clearly after it. We have the Artie Rosen variant. A 9.6 hit $200. That's 14% over its recent 12 months. The 9.6 hit $225, 29% over its recent 12 months.
Then we have the standard edition, CGC 9.2, which sold for $119, 10% above its 12-month average, and a CGC 9.6 that sold for $199, 11% above its 12-month.
And then we have 7 9.8 sales. I'll put them up all on the screen, but the highest of which was for $495. The average was $375 all year long.
Moving on to number 2 on the list, a book that's made the list almost every single week since James Gunn took over at DC. Fans really want to see Lobo, and we have Omega Men issue 3 from 1983 making the list, the first appearance of Lobo.
We chatted about this book just last week on the Hot 10, hit the subscribe button, and since then there's been an increase of 37 copies added to the census. The comic fam are sending their copies into CGC in mass, 8 of which were graded at a 9.8.
And once again, sales in almost every single grade. A 7.5 that sold for $84, an 8.5 that sold for $89. And look how close it gets here. A 9.0 selling for $111 and a 9.2 selling for $110.
Clearly, members are throwing down money on any grades they can get because every week the book is moving in a great direction. The 9.4 sold for $130, 30% over its recent 12 months, and the 9.6 hit $200, 43% over its recent year.
The CGC 9.8 selling for $405, 24% above its 12-month average.
Hit the like, slap the subscribe button. We're here every week reporting on the health of the comic book marketplace. And make sure you're following Gemman over on his YouTube channel at Gemman Collectibles. What do you got cooking over there?
Well, we ended the year with the 2022 room tour, the basement mostly finished. We got the statue unboxings and more.
And that brings us to number 1, the number 1 hottest book as we enter into 2023. We appreciate you, comic fan. Happy New Year. We have Hulk number 1 debuting in 2008. We have Red Hulk. We have Harrison Ford Spec moving in the right direction.
Harrison Ford already confirmed to play General Thunderbolt Ross in the MCU, but what hasn't been confirmed is whether or not he'll turn into Red Hulk.
Harrison Ford did a podcast where he was talking about his new show, 1923, and in the interview, he was asked, why do an MCU role? And he said he wanted to do something he had never done before. So that begged the question, what hasn't he done? Could it be motion capture? Because you'd have to do that if you're going to go Red Hulk. And he responded by zipping his lips.
So he pretty much spills the beans, not confirmed, but kind of. Anyway, we have sales in not only the regular edition, not only the second print, but the
1 out of 50 and McGinnis ratio variant
as well. A CGC 9.8. They only made 1,200 of these, and it sold for $350 in September. It's up now 57% with its all-new record high of 550.
We also have a second print wraparound cover, 9.8, that sold for $190. That's trending 32% over its recent 12 months.
And now onto the standard edition. We have 49 new copies added to the CGC census over the last month. And look, Lobo with 37, showing how much interest there are in these two keys. There are a total now of 3,374, which includes 215 copies in a 9.2 for an increase of 4, 460 9.4s, which have an increase of 8, and 1,038 copies at a 9.6, 20 additional since we last reported.
The 9.8 has 11 new copies added to the census, and we have so many grade points moving up in value, doing very similar things to what Omega Man 3 did. The 8.0 sold for 70, but the 9.0 sold for 100, and the 9.2 sold for 110. That's 20% over its recent 12 months, and the 9.4 sold for 140, 31%.
The 9.6 isn't far behind with a sale of $169, 13% above its 12-month average, and then the 9.8 selling for $405, 26% above its 12-month average.
We appreciate your time today, comic fam. As always,
geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
Enough said. But take a look at these books. I'm bringing them all to Whatnot. Dollar start auctions that last under a minute long. These are going to be some of the best deals in the comic community. Link in the description. Support the show. Get some freaking crazy books for cheap. We have also some videos we made for you. Check them out. Adios.